Would you talk to the doctor? Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. And today I have Matt Mayhem Biolos on the show with us. And you know what? I don't think there's any introduction needed because you all know who he is. And I want to say to him, thank you for coming, mister.
Happy to be here.
I'm happy for you to be here. And I got to say this right out of the gate. I would like to know where it all started for you. You know what I mean? Like when you were, at what age or what time did you know you wanted to do what you're doing now, which is your calling card?
I grew up around boats.
Sick.
I grew up, like, all of our family spare time was spent in Dana Point Harbor. And I grew up kind of in that world around boats. And I made my first board randomly as a senior in high school at a friend's house in Dana Point, like in the apartment ghetto up above the harbor.
What year?
It would have been spring of '87.
First time you mowed a surfboard.
I shaped a surfboard by hand in my friend's garage. And then he was also glassing his boards.
And who was this dude?
Huh?
Who was this
A
dude?
guy named Ryan Tallmeyer.
Okay.
He's I met him night surfing at Doheny at like 11 o'clock at night on a full moon at Boneyard at Doheny on a big south swell.
You're like, who's this dude? No.
Yeah, there was like 3 people out. It's like,
Right.
perfect stomach high Boneyard.
Wow. Okay.
On 1980s thrusters, all 20 inches wide. Anyways, but I was watching him try and glass his board that he shaped, and I was like, ooh, that looks a little rough. So I went into Yellow Pages. Well, I asked the guys at the shipyard where I worked, repairing boats, I'm like, can we glass a board here? They're like, oh, there's all kinds of little places. There's Hobie, and there's like guys that do it right. Take your board to one of those guys. So I looked in Yellow Pages, and I saw Surf Glass, and I took it to Surf Glass right there by the coach house. It was a giant surfboard factory. And I walked in, and I was like, whoa, wow, this is cool. Hundreds of surfboards. Every kind of brand, Stewart's and all kinds of other brands. And
yeah, they were huge. I mean,
they were doing
massive,
a ton of stuff there with the high-performance longboard era.
Yeah. Everything.
And this was spring of '87, and I was just about to finish high school, and I said, oh, you do that? And I remember it was like $105 they wanted for a glass job. Well, we'll glass it for you. I'm like, you looking for any help around here? This looks cool. This is way cooler than the boatyard. And they're like, yeah, we need a polisher. I go, I can polish boats. And they're like, well, how about you drive the delivery van? And I started working part-time at Surf Glass.
Cool.
And
what did they pay? Do you remember?
it would have been minimum wage.
Which back then was like $3.50
yeah,
or something.
$3.75 an
Good
hour.
Lord,
Yeah.
you work a whole week, you go, really? Like I
Yeah.
get $120? You guys are fired. No.
But I was still working in the shipyard and doing like underwater boat maintenances with scuba tanks and driving around the harbor in my inflatable.
Well, you make pretty good money doing that.
That was good money.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could make like $15-20 an hour doing that as
Yeah.
a teenager in the 80s.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Very industrious. Yes.
Very industrious. And then a guy named Chris Santley, who's his brother's Joey
Santley's brother?
Joey
Okay.
Santley's brother. He was a sander. He had been running that factory, but him and his father said sold it. And he goes, hey, you got to come down to the Herbie Fletcher factory and help me with my sanding. You're going to love this place. I'm like, oh, really? Herbie Fletcher? Wow. So he brought me down there. It was in July of '87. And he goes, and he introduced me to everyone there. He's like, I got this kid. He's going to help me hand sand and sand fins and stuff. And I walked in there and I saw that building and that culture and that place at that time. And I knew this is what I wanted to do.
That's an awesome moment, man.
Yeah.
That's an awesome moment. Especially
39 years later, I'm still in that building.
I was just going to say something like that. Like how that turns out,
Yeah.
is that how I love stuff like that. I just love. And then there was you following, because I feel like really at the end of the day, what my show is about the most is talking to people who chose early in life what they would love to do most and pursued it and somehow did well at it, And I feel like that's the beginning somehow, because that's a journey. And like, so there you are, and you're still, what were you like? Did you say you were like 18 right then or something like that?
It was 17, 18.
Yeah. So from there, so you're kind of introduced. So did you that's where you started full time there?
Yeah. Before long, I ended up there. I just quit everything else. Done. This is the culture I want to be a part of.
Sick. So
and all the chaos and all the people and all the, I was
the energy.
6 months older than Christian, 6 months younger than Archie. Same day, same with Dino, and everyone passing through there. Herbie, the Paskowitz family, the Hoffman family. I mean, it was nonstop. It was just like the Herbie's cavalcade of surf culture was just like I was enamored with it immediately.
The epicenter in a lot of ways.
In its own way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In its own kind of cool way. Just like a focal point of culture and energy and creativity and production.
It was. He was like making the best surf movies at that time.
Definitely.
It was just really cool.
Really awesome, yeah. And then, so from there, I want to say, I was going to ask you to tell me the story of where you met your partner, your infamous partner, your partner in crime.
Business partner,
right?
Nowadays, you got to make sure you don't say,
woo, yeah, we're not trying to go the other way with
Yeah.
that. But yeah, your business partner, Mike Reola.
Yeah.
When and where did you two gentlemen meet?
Mike would have been maybe a year or two later, summer of 88, 89, I'm not sure. I took over Cameron Steele's bedroom in a 3-bedroom apartment down by Mariposa. It was Cameron, Tonan, and Bill Woodcock.
Yeah.
So like we're talking like hardcore San Clemente names here.
Okay.
We're not Uber, but Cameron's
Sure.
like world famous in the off-road truck world and motocross and all that.
And
then,
even boogie boarding before that.
yeah,
and,
he was a pro boogie boarder at that time.
Sure.
And he's like, hey,
I got a room.
I'm moving out, and Woodcock was my first friend in San Clemente, and so I moved in there, and I took over Cameron's bedroom, and Mike Reola was on the couch. It was maybe summer of 88 or 89.
Mike Reola was on the couch.
On the
at Cameron's
couch,
house.
he would come to San Clemente, and I guess he somehow met Bill at the pier. Where
Bill.
And Bill's like, oh, you can stay on my couch. I think Bill had Mike paying all his share of the rent just to stay on the couch so Bill could live for free.
Oh boy.
And Mike was couch surfing in between working his way through university. Mike was going to school in Florida, university, like a Gator, University of Florida.
Okay.
I met him there.
Out in the house at Mariposa.
At the house in Mariposa with Tracy Davis and all the punkers upstairs.
Yeah, I just saw Tracy the other day. So yeah, they were upstairs. Oh my God, what a combo!
Upstairs
right?
was Tracy and all his cohorts and everything.
I think the word cohorts would fit perfectly for that, right? In a nice way.
It was
wild. And the thing is, what's cool, what I'm hearing is Bill Woodcock. What a conduit. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, he really was.
He introduced you inevitably, kind of through him. He introduced you to Mike.
Yeah, I met Mike through Bill.
Yeah,
for sure.
So moving forward on that one, so you met Mike, and at what stage did you guys kind of click into this mode of going?
He just kind of sat back and watched me kind of develop my surfboard building thing. Like, started out, I was more known for painting rather than shaping, and I would do everything in the factory, and I was shaping, but not for anyone with a name behind them or anything, just kind of slowly on my own when I had time learning to shape those first few years. More and more, doing my little mayhems, but I started getting the name known as painting boards, like painting all the monsters and stuff.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
All the,
Oh yeah.
For Christian
Fully.
And whoever wanted a board.
Totally,
Guys would order Pattersons, bring them to me, and I'd paint crazy shit on them, or McElroy's,
which was cool because you were painting people of the different shapers.
Yes, I was handling their boards.
Exactly, and plus you weren't just going, "Well, I only paint my boards." It's smart,
yeah,
industrious.
Yeah,
I mean, just
Mike kind of sat back and watched me develop, and we surf and hang out together and chase girls around all through his. He would come out every year in his college break.
Oh, okay.
And then when he finally started to finish, I think he graduated in summer of '91.
That was a hell of a year.
So like maybe
Speaking
before
years,
that, like
91.
He was telling me leading up to that, he goes, "Hey, I'm going to come out full time. If you want to make something out of this, if you really want to take it to the next level, we can turn what you're doing into a brand." That's why I went to school. I've got my degree. I'm going to have my degree. We'll come out and we'll we'll do it for real if you want, and you won't have to worry about anything. I'll just handle all the back end. You just do what you do, and we'll make a company, a brand, whatever. And I'm like, okay. This is still 91. We're like 21 years old.
But what's cool about it is, you guys have this bond where there's, first of all, I think partnerships have to develop out of like a phenomenal trust, just like you just feel really good about the dude, right? Because I mean, at the end of the day, as good as it can be on all these other levels, without a good feeling of trust, like I'm pretty sure you guys have that, right? Where it's just like your brother, like you just know, I don't got to look at the books. Even if you look at the books, I'm saying,
I don't look at the books.
God, that's freaking beautiful.
Yeah, there's trust.
Beautiful. That kind of trust when it comes to business is at the cornerstone. I learned the hard way. Most
people,
I've been hammered by that shit.
It's pretty rare. We've been at it for 35 years.
Yeah, and I just think that the success story comes initially from that brotherhood trust, that feeling of like, I got your back. I'm never going to take a dime that isn't mine.
Yeah.
Like just that energy, right?
And a lot of times when the money starts coming in, you work hard for 5, 10, 15 years and it turns into like there's actually money. That's when things
People get weird.
Can start to erode, and it's never really happened with us.
All respect for that, because I personally know how hard that is. Like I've been through a lot like that, you know? And so I feel like, and then what you guys have done, like since then, I just think, you know, it's an amazing story to pick up and like say, so you guys actually started in 91? The brand
I think we started
formed?
registering the trademarks and doing all that in 91.
Okay.
Started making T-shirts with some other friends, some kids from Salt Creek that kind of ran our boards and kind of helped us get started doing T-shirts and stuff. A guy named Aaron and a guy named Chad, good friends of mine at the time. Still
your buddies?
But it ended up kind of funneling down and ended up just being Mike and I by around 93.
Okay, so there was a couple of guys involved, but it was really ended up being you.
Yeah, like stoked, good surfers that we ran with, Salt Creek kids, Strands kids. But in the end,
that's kind of cool to have that connection. You know, you guys were kind of established here in San Clemente, but also clicking in with like you were night surfing at Doheny, meeting people.
Yeah, that's because you
got the ship
with the harbor thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, my family's been part of that harbor since the late 70s.
Cool.
My grandmother's always had a house in Capo Beach up on the Palisades, so kind of immersed into.
You had solid roots here from so long.
Yeah,
ago.
I didn't grow up here. I didn't go to school here, but we had like our alternative lifestyle down here.
How cool. Yeah. And the thing is like, so here we go. We're moving. Let me ask you this. Prior to like whatever, 91, 92, 93, had you ever traveled anywhere?
I did very little travel until I started making more of a name for myself and getting asked to go places. But, I did, I wish I turned down a few opportunities. I mean, Christian and Nathan asked me to go to Bali. They're like, hey, you should come with us to Bali. We got this place binging. There's no one out.
Oh my God.
In like
Such
89
a machine,
or something.
Little wave, it's a machine.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, I don't know. But
you look back,
it's the
you're
same
like,
with the Mentawise, like, oh, Strider, you should have come to. You want to go? We're going to Sumatra. I was like 95. I'm like, where? I didn't end up going until 99. But I went to Hawaii in the fall of '88. I made myself an 8.0 and I went and surfed whatever, sunset and big north swell, Laniakeas, and I saw the real surfers doing things I only seen in the magazines or on video. I went to Hawaii, so like November '88, went back in 1989 and started scaring myself and seeing the world and watching Tom Curren surf Haleiwa and meeting people there and just saying, if I'm going to be in this business, if I'm going to live this life, I need to go do what everyone talks about, go to Hawaii. So I went to Hawaii as a teenager, back to back. First couple of years I made boards. Started going to like Cabo and Mazatlan and basic California kid trips.
Yeah.
It took, fast forwarding 6-8 years, and we started making a name for ourselves as a brand. And then I started really doing the Shaper Traveler thing around the mid 90s.
Would you say by the mid 90s, you guys were clicking pretty solid? Like you went from a startup that was 91 to 93 ish.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, the things really started to change when we started making the videos. We started highlighting when it opened a window to what we were doing, with the kids, with Chris Ward and Corey Lopez. And even before them, we were just making videos with local surfers. The first movie we made, kind of like a Run Man type thing. We called it the Dysfunctional video.
Yeah, I remember that. And it was very dysfunctional.
It was very dysfunctional.
And it really caught on. I think the timing was literally magic. It was kind of like right along the same time when grunge took over from hair metal, like it was just like this moment where getting just down in the mix was kind of
down and dirty.
Yeah. It was kind of actually right there with grunge in a sense.
But we learned the game from Herbie. We grew up on Wave Warriors, and then Woodcock was Herbie's editor in the early 90s, and we started making little edits with Bill. I'd go up to Herbie's office, and Bill and I would make little Lost Mayhem promotional edits. And then Mike, he's like, look at what's starting to happen with Taylor Steele, and it's like the new way to speak to surfers. We could make our own movie, and it'll be like the opposite of what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I had this big rack of 80s punk rock records, and I would all our soundtrack would come out of my punk rock records from, 81 to 85. And Mike would just start editing in a very loose, chaotic, but strict methodical way of the chaos. It was like controlled chaos.
Mike was editing or Bill?
Mike
Started editing.
Well, Bill's first. We did it with Bill up at Herbie's place, and then Mike took over. When we started doing full length videos,
he was doing
Mike.
How cool is that? Your partner. And the thing is the way that kind of came off, I feel like, is like you said, it sent the message to the world, like this is what we're about, right? And then that, clicked in with selling clothes and boards, and the whole thing was just really intelligent.
It all went up at the same time.
Poof.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was
the videos carried it. What we were doing very quietly. We were making cool, T-shirts. The shops around here would carry them, and kids were wearing it. It was kind of like a, almost like a Stecco thing. Like
kind of like that. Yeah. Although at a much different time, Much
different time.
Yeah. Got to be tough nowadays. Do what brother's doing with that.
It takes more now, and he's got more. He's got all the experience. He's got the notoriety. Yeah. But he's also got the edge. Chloe's got an angry edge.
He really does.
And it's combined with a lifetime of travel and knowledge and experience. And he's got his dad's wit.
He does. Yeah, I was just talking to Dino about it the other day at length with what brother's doing and everything, and it's an interesting time to be doing it. That's for sure, right? I mean,
it's a good time to be doing it because the other brands are just
kind of washed out. Washed out, and there's a time to come up and be that raw brand. Yeah. So I mean,
with authenticity.
He's definitely got that. And like you guys did, you guys were here speaking from a place that what you guys were doing wasn't just some thought up marketing plan. It was really truly what you were living, what you were being. You were just showing the parties you went to. You were showing the energy of what was happening. So it was basically just a mirror into a culture at a time.
Yeah, there was no filter.
It was just documenting what was happening, put it into cool edit cuts with the music.
What's really going on.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you this, when you were talking about the punk records, was there rights issues with that?
We didn't acknowledge anything like that. I would call, I remember calling Lisa Francher, who owned Frontier Records, and she's like, oh, I want to use some of the old Circle Jerks albums, and she had the rights. She owned the Adolescence Blue album, and she's like, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, I would literally call, and she would answer. You could call. You could call, Ian Mackay and at Discord. You'd call Discord Records, and he would say, yeah, go ahead. Well, it was pretty mellow. Tang Records. They had the China Saints and all these bands, the Boston bands and all that. I would literally just call them
just to see, and just to show respect.
Yeah, we walked the edge though. We definitely danced around the edge. We got more bold and took bigger risks as time went on.
I mean, now I think there's so much stuff with all that. I don't know, that was pretty rad that you could do that.
Now it's a lot harder because they can't. It's really hard for the really hard for the musicians to make money, so they need to find every avenue they can. I think it's a lot harder now.
I think you're right.
Before they were selling records, they were selling CDs, DVDs, whatever it was, and now it's they make their money just touring, basically.
Pretty much, yeah.
But a band like the Circle Jerks, they're all 68, 70 years old. Those guys are making more money now than they ever made.
Sick.
Touring.
Sick. Oh my God. I'm 66, so it's trippy to me to think those guys are, that just blows my mind. The Circle Jerks are 68, and I'm right there. I'm just saying. So that just sometimes, I don't know how that happened, Matt. I don't know how I got to be 66 years old.
The alternative is not good.
I've lost 3 of my best friends in the last couple months. Yeah. So tell me about it. I know I'm going through it. Yeah. But at the same time, it's I'm still here kicking, mister. And the thing is about that is I feel like it's a lifestyle. It's got to be something in your genes too, but it's your lifestyle.
It's lifestyle.
It's lifestyle. So
eat less, move more.
Yeah. It's just all that and more, and attitude, I think. How you deal with things that come up, whether you turn it into more stress or make a mountain out of a molehill. I say every day, I'm I just take the lemons and turn them into lemonade. Yeah. That's what I do.
I try to whistle and sing every morning.
Keeping it just joy. Be grateful, just be grateful.
Whistle in the kitchen.
Good for you. That's an awesome energy. I feel like if people, sometimes I feel like I even tell this to people, we're Americans, and they're telling me their problems. I'm those problems would be someone in Bangladesh's best day in their life. Yeah. Okay. So
it's windy at Lowers today.
It's I feel your pain, So I just, so you had said something earlier about, wasn't it Strider who brought you a couple blanks early on? Or tell me that.
Yeah. So I was building boards, and Nathan might have got a board or two from me before that, but, and he was 13 or something, 14, and he was we were buddies.
He was such a cool Grom.
Yeah, he was
the coolest Grom ever, I think.
But Strider was staying with Herbie and Dibby. He was like, and like for the summer or something. And Christian brought him down to the shop, and he was hanging around. And I kind of knew Strider a little because I lived with Tonan, who's also from Santa Monica, Venice thing. And Strider had come down with like some of that crew. Like he literally came to our apartment with Jay Adams once and some other Venice guys. So I'd met him, and then he's like, "Oh, I like what you're doing." He goes, "You ever make guns?" I'm like, "Oh, I made a couple for myself." You know? He's like, "Oh, Gordon Clark's gonna give me a couple blanks. You want to shape me a couple pipeline boards?" I'm like, "Okay, I'll give it a shot."
Wow, a lot of responsibility, almost.
Yeah.
Wow.
He's like, "I'm gonna go surf the pipeline."
Yeah,
I guess he got some kind of
like, wow,
cheesy sponsorship from Bear clothing.
Oh,
Remember
God.
Bear was based
I
off
know
the
all
movie.
well.
So I made him a couple guns, and he went over there.
That's just a gnarly story.
That's a long story.
I'm not going there,
Yeah.
but I do know that, and it's kind of gnarly.
So he was like the first kind of known surfer to, like, before Christian ever let me shape him a board. You know, Christian's like, "You know, let him make you boards. We just let him paint ours." You know?
Oh my God. Oh, that's so funny. So he shaped him,
Yeah.
and he went to pipe,
He went to pipe
and
and
he
got
was psyched.
waves.
Yeah.
Little sketchy. You know?
but still, that's just.
Strider's a little sketchy too.
He's such a character,
and we've
you know,
been
he's really
together.
character.
I can't get rid of him. We've been attached at the hips ever since.
He's just such a cool guy. I mean, I was telling you earlier my story with him too.
He'd be good to get in here.
He said he's coming. It's just about timing.
He'd be great.
It's about timing.
Yeah.
So I mean, now we're like mid '90s,
Yeah.
and things are going well with Lost. And where do we go? When did it all of a sudden become like more like mega? Like,
I mean, we were by 94, 95, we started getting into stores with the boards. You'd go to a shop and there'd be like some Mayhems in there, or Lost Surfboards or whatever. We got Chris Ward in 95, I think.
you'd have to admit that was probably a big moment for the brand.
Yeah, we finagled him away from Rusty. Yeah.
Good for everybody. I mean, I feel like everyone. Yeah.
Yeah, we made a deal and we got him head to toe, and
So
O'Neill
sick.
Westhues came on and helped us make that happen, and my Japanese surfboard distributor helped us make that happen. But we ended up, we had him, so we had our like muse, we had our
Big time.
little hero, and we started making the movies, and it started getting notoriety. So we were able to sell some T-shirts, get the boards into stores. But one of the big turning points was the 5.5 19 1/4 movie, where we unleashed the whole fish thing with Corey and Chris and Andy.
Yeah, because you had Corey too.
Yeah, Corey riding the boards. Yeah.
I mean, not head to toe, but to have at that time.
Yeah, these two wild teenage boys.
But like ripping, next level ripping, like just cool. Like I just felt like they were like, I feel like they were kind of like, in a sense, it was kind of like Paul Newman and Robert Redford in like this, Sundance Kid. Like it just, I don't know, just cool guys. Like,
and they were kind of like, they were outside of that Taylor Steele bubble. Like they couldn't break into that, so we had what we had was with our thing, and what we were working with like Ken Worthy and Ryan Ray and the guys. We kind of had our own little side world,
big time.
Yeah, outside of like the squeaky clean, like Rip Curl movies, or like Billabong, highly beautifully produced Billabong movies, or then the Taylor Steele with that click, that momentum generation. We had we were the punks.
I would absolutely relate that to, like, in a sense, if I'm looking at movies, I'm looking at like, studio produced Spielberg movies, which are fantastic and beautiful and all that. But then you've got indie films that come out with Tarantino's got a movie, or David Lynch, and just different people who they have more style. They don't answer to anyone.
Yeah,
they do what they want.
Did not answer to anyone.
Yeah, it's the best. So
what that did is it gave us the notoriety. All of a sudden, we started getting calls from around the world. Oh, you want to come make boards in Australia? You want to come make boards in Peru? You want to come make boards in Europe?
Shape the boards there.
Building boards around the world and kind of expanding and getting like our little cockroach feet wedged in, and so I started going to South Africa, go to Australia. I think from like 96 to 98, I went and shaped in a dozen countries around the world, set our brand up to as a base in all the surf countries around Hawaii, and go to the East Coast and shape, go to South Africa, Australia, Japan. I've been going since the start. Like 91, I started shaping in Japan.
That's smart. we know they're just pumped. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
They're just so
used
pumped.
to be the thing to do.
The thing to do.
Yeah.
Now, when you would go to these places, where were you doing this? Like in someone else's work? Like
Factories. Yeah,
Other
Jordy
factories.
Smith's dad flew me to South Africa, Durban, went out there and shaped like 70 or 80 boards by hand in his factory, Mayhem's, Lost.
nice.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah,
Cool.
running around with Jordy in Durban. He's like 9 years old, taking him surfing. The first guy that brought us to Australia was Greg Weber, the legendary shaper.
Mhm.
We went to Angary in, I think, 97. Him and his partner flew me out, said we want to make Lost Boards in Australia.
In Angary?
In Angary.
Ooh,
Yeah, I went
what
there
a
and hand
bitchin'
shaped.
spot.
We started using machine pretty soon, but we hand shaped in Angary.
Yamba.
Yamber, stayed in
Oh my
Yamber.
God, Yamba.
Yeah.
And then all those waves right there, like Spooks and
Yeah,
and,
Spookies,
the
the
Back
slab.
Bay.
Yeah,
God,
Back
what
Beach.
a slab that is. Yeah,
We went
Back
to
Beach. Just,
the
you know,
Pugas
Angary
family
itself.
brought me out to Spain,
Oh,
and that
Perfect.
would have been 96 as well, 30 years ago.
perfect.
Yeah, so that kind of like started happening mid-90s, late 90s.
So with you guys, like you and Mike, and you're marching forward in this ever-changing world, in this ever-changing landscape with this surf culture that's, amazingly tumultuous, right? Like it's never been a solid. I mean, I want to say like basketball or football, they don't go through the changes we do as much. I don't feel like we have a smaller culture with less money, and we got to navigate
But
the
a lot of
troubling
money
waters
was coming in at that
at
time.
certain times, right?
Yeah.
And then right through the highs and lows of economy and whatever. So you guys got to where would you say was your peak in the early days? What was the peak year?
Well,
that was
we
just like, whoa.
we got the apparel up to, we were running it out of a warehouse in the alley below what is now the Parlor restaurant there on Coast Highway.
Mhm.
We were in, or everything was out of there. We were doing apparel. And we were maybe doing $6 million a year out of a garage, selling Lost t-shirts and random, most of it board shorts and stuff made in Santa Ana still. Everything was made here. We had Lawrence Quigley helping us doing design and production. I was handling t-shirts and graphics, and Mike was doing all the back end. We were driving to Santa Ana and making stuff. Up around 99
Okay.
or 98, no, it was 99. We took it through the 90s all on our own in a garage, and got it to the point where we raised the attention of Joel Cooper, who's the guy who started Gotcha with Michael Thompson. They started Gotcha. They ran it together. They made it huge. It was a huge thing, Gotcha MCD. They sold it to Merrill Lynch, and he had to. They got a lot of money, and he had a non-compete that ran out, and he wanted to reinvent himself. So he bought into Lost, everything except the surfboards. We still had this. Mike and I were doing the surfboards and the apparel, making the videos. It was just the two of us.
Right.
But we separated them into two different busises, and then we sold Joel 49%
Of the clothing.
of the clothing and anything that's not directly related to a surfboard.
Cool.
That was 99, and we started running it together, the three of us, and he kind of brought in a certain sophistication, experience, working capital, whatever,
Cool.
notoriety, and it started growing. We kind of got it to a certain point where we raised some more eyebrows in a big licensing firm called La Jolla Group, based in Irvine. They were doing O'Neill at the time. They still do O'Neill. The three of us licensed the manufacturing to La Jolla Group just after the 2000, early 2000s, and we ran with them for we had a 6-8 year arc with them, where the first 8 years it just kept growing and growing, and that was that crazy time before the global financial
bubble.
crisis. Yeah,
Popped in 2008.
yeah. Up
right?
to there, we just went.
You guys were just.
Well, yeah, it was just like doubling on years. Yeah, and
To what peak? At what peak before the bubble popped?
what do you mean?
I don't know. I'm not.
Oh, I
Trying
mean,
I'm just saying,
it was a $20 million clothing brand, just domestically, and maybe another half that again around the world. So it was like we were there.
We're talking 30 mil, baby.
Yeah, and it was funny how fast it decimated.
Which was purely, like I was, saying a couple minutes ago, the highs and lows of economy itself.
Yeah, we kind of veered. We just, and at that time, the surfboards, I was so focused on growing the clothing and involved in that. I kind of just had the surfboards on cruise control. I mean, we had team, and we weren't pushing like we have been the last, 15 years since then.
Yeah.
16, 18 years since then. So as the clothing started to crumble and decimate, and everybody had to reevaluate what that world was going to be. We just kind of like turned inward and said, well, I'm going to put my head down and really do what I do best and get
in the shaping room,
get back in the surfboard business hard, and rebuild a team. And right about then, Kolohe was starting to blossom, and Dino, we'd been friends a long time by then, and we kind of did this. We started working really close with like a 12, 13-year-old Kolohe. And then Carissa Moore things started to happen. Dino brought Taj Burrow along. And next thing you know, and then by 2011, 2010, it was like Kolohe, Carissa, Taj Burrow, and things started to build from there again.
Yeah.
And we've been on a really strong upward path since then with the surfboards.
Yeah, and just because it's so organically, it's just so at the core of what we do is surf. We ride craft, and when that craft, as you develop that craft to be so state of the art, more and more focusing on, not only the shaping, but what I was always always amazed by what you did is like you came here, and I mean, there's plenty of other shapers, they just didn't have the business acumen.
But neither did I. Mike had the business acumen. He protected me the first decade. I ended up learning. Now we're I speak the language, of course, 30 years in. But I didn't have much business acumen, but I had a creative streak. And I think growing up separated from the core surf culture and mainly seeing it from the outside. But the other influences I had away from beach life, punk rock gigs since I was 12 years old, and all the flyers that made the punk rock shows, and just outside skateboarding. I used to skate at the Upland Skate Park and all the pipes and pools, and I was never a high level skateboarder, but I was in the culture. And skateboarding, surfing, snowboarding at its infancy, outside influences, even even like the Hispanic Cholo kind of thing I ran with, Mexican guys, friends of mine in high school and stuff. I think those outside influences gave me an alternative edge when I delved into building surfboards and painting them, designing them, marketing them, badging them, my logos, my graphics, the way we presented the brand in the music and everything. So I feel like having an outside perspective, not growing up in the NSSA scene, and not
I see what you mean.
Right,
Yeah.
not being in the beach culture. I moved here. Everyone was listening to the Grateful Dead. Like Garth Day was the kingpin of our age group, and just a local crew.
And what a phenomenal shaper!
What a phenomenal guy! His brother Gavin.
Great
Josh Baxter, the guys that were my age.
Yeah.
Chris Barnum, Hans Silstra. That really cool, vibey. That I kind of slid into quietly and tried to stay humble and be quiet. And I'll go surf with you guys. Yeah, thanks. I'll go.
Yeah,
those guys were
are
all
cool
into
people.
Classic rock and Grateful Dead,
Fully.
and everything was just beachy and groovy.
Yeah.
And I kind of came in with this kind of inland aggro, rawr. And it kind of separated what we were doing from, like you said, there's a lot of guys building boards here. One person that really loved it was Christian. Christian loved the metal, the punk rock, the aggro, the bloods, guts, the devil shit,
I mean, I'm pretty sure he still does, but he's always been about that.
He gave me my first platform to express myself creatively and be seen on a national level.
Thinking about that logo, Roy was in here, Roy Gonzalez was in here talking about that logo,
the Christian Fletcher logo.
Yeah, and when it was like he was like kind of Herbie was like, "Hey man, it could be this way." It was kind of more what Herbie was kind of trying to see, and Chris was like, "Fuck that, man! I want it to fucking I want it to like Slayer. I want it to you know what I mean?"
Exactly.
And Roy was going, "Okay," so they went with that, And I just feel like that really was at that seminal moment. And then Archie also having his whole kind of
that whole
tattoo
vibe.
built for speed,
the
just
tattoos
that whole
and the tribal,
and
even the Americana with the flags and all that, the Indians.
He really brought a thing, and it's just those two guys really separated what was happening. They were once again. I feel like there was two humans who really didn't feel like they answered to anybody, they just want to do what they wanted to do. They made a life, and they still don't.
Well, Archie answers to his wife now, like most of us.
Okay, well, that's another thing.
I answer to my wife.
Yes and no. I mean,
Christian,
you do it.
He was
yes and no.
He was so badass.
Oh my
he's like,
gosh.
I want a priest burning on a cross.
Oh my gosh.
Painted the whole bottom of his board, and he ended up doing some air. and getting a shot, and they put it on. It was somehow ended up on the cover of LA Times weekly news, like weekly magazine.
Oh my gosh. Let's just think
this
about
was like
that.
90 or 91.
just oh.
And it was just like shock and awe.
Sure, shock and awe. He was
shock and awe.
And then the next, he was like, well, just put it on my head, let me shave my head and put it on my head.
Shave my head.
Just absolutely bizarre how he went from like, like long kind of blonde haired when he first did his thing. In
Manicured
like
by his parents at that time.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, he rebelling from that to some degree, but still, they're kind of, Dibby really wanted what she wanted, right? And like, I'm in talks with them to come in. I'm in talks to Herbie and Dibby to come in. How would that be?
Dibby was an equally large influence on me as Dibby. As Herbie.
Oh, yeah. Major force of a human being.
She's amazing.
Unbelievable.
She's still a force.
I told her the other day, I'm trying to talk, talking to her. They're doing their art thing. And I'm like, and I told her, just so you know, not politically, but I see you as kind of the, and I preface it, not saying politically, but I see you as kind of the Jane Fonda of surfing. And she goes, ah!
They actually look alike.
They do.
She's got a Jane
very,
Fonda.
very, very, very powerful women.
Yeah.
Although that's not her politics, Jane isn't.
No.
But her
Hanoi
energy.
Jane.
Oh my God. So I had to clarify. She comes hot. So I'm like, no, girl, no. Like, I'm not saying you and her agree on anything. I'm just saying your energy,
I agree.
And it's incredible. I feel like
I agree with you
coined
100%. I've said that
Thank
she
you very
reminds
much.
me of that she's like a Jane Fonda doppelganger 20, 30 years ago. Yeah.
Oh, sick.
Yeah.
Good. So when she gets mad at me next time when I get her in here,
She's like, right,
What are you talking about?
man.
I love her fire. I mean, she's just so dynamic. When you say someone, if there ever was someone who has to go home and, well, he didn't have to go home, she'd be in the office too, but not answers to, but you deal together, right? She's obviously a force.
She's the boss.
She's a force, yeah. And it's awesome. I mean, I think I want to say this maybe even about, like, I was talking to Larry Beard, and then we were talking about Roy, and then something came up about Drew, and I was like, Drew, different than Roy, has Maria.
Yeah.
You're
absolutely right.
Like, Roy never had a Maria.
Roy needed a Maria.
If he had a Maria,
yeah.
Oh my God!
Keep him on the straight and narrow,
and just someone,
like get out of the way, Roy. Okay, I'm making the deal now.
Yes,
yeah,
but live up to the deal. So you got to produce.
And now you got to do it.
Yeah,
yeah. Maria's always been Drew's magic weapon.
I don't think he would be where he is today without her. I think it's easy enough to say. No disrespect to Drew.
And she allows him to stay creative and not stress and worry about all the details.
Which if Roy had that, oh my God! Yeah. Right? So it's just kind of cool to see everyone in their spot. Really, I think everyone does accept too that. Drew's big opportunity was when he started painting your guys' boards.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm just gonna say what everyone says.
It gave him it gave him a lot of notoriety, and it gave him the base to go and do his own thing. And we had a great run together. And what's really cool now is, we had that first run for like 5-6 years, and then maybe even longer. And then he went out and he did his own thing, and he's got a really successful licensing and fine art business. But in the last, since COVID, since he returned back to health, he's like, I want to get back to my roots. And I said, we'd love to do projects with you again. So him and I have been doing projects nonstop, consistently doing projects together the last 5 years.
Sick. It's
been great.
And here we are today, and you've got one hell of a team. And I want to say it's I want to say congratulations on him. You are 3 times awarded Shaper of the Year in this new thing they're doing.
WSL rankings, yeah. 3 times we did it.
So. Damn. And I'm going to say it right now. It looks like you're pretty par in the lead in this year too, mister.
Yeah, the girls are picking up and carrying all the heavy weight right now.
Gosh,
Yago just got a win.
Killed it.
And the San Clemente boys are having a slow start to the season, but they're surfing phenomenal. I don't think anyone's surfing better than Griffin. He's just not quite getting the results consistently this season.
I'm with you. I do. He's killing it. It's just, other people are killing it too.
Looking amazing. Cole.
Crosby's insane. Cole. They're all, it's just.
So what I'm most proud of with that situation is that, and I say this, this team, this super team that we have the last half decade, it's been building. It wasn't like a draft or a hiring a free agents. It wasn't like a targeted team that we went out and tried to get people to rip on our boards. It was almost all full on farm system. Most of these guys, all these kids, these guys, these girls, almost every one of them was farm system raised riding our boards. It wasn't like we went out and said, oh, this guy's a hot shot. He might be ready for a new board sponsor. Let's try and get him and put him on our team. It's like really organic.
You were with them. Farm system meaning you were with them when they were younger.
When they were younger.
You found them when they were younger. They found you or however it was. But you've been nurturing that talent.
On our team, on our World Tour team, I think there's 11 of them right now.
There is 11.
The only one that didn't qualify for the World Tour on our boards is Betty Lou. She's the closest thing to a free agent. You know, she was kind of struggling with her boards and tried boards from like 5 or 6 top shapers. Ross Williams helped her go out, and she ordered boards from all of us, most all the players in that genre. And she ended up settling, and I surfed with her, and she flew over, and she's like, I want to be on your team. So I called the other girls, and they're like, yeah. And Carissa was kind of going into a semi-retirement.
Mm-hmm.
She's the only one that kind of was already an established. I mean, even Yago started riding our boards when he moved here with his family as a teenager, you know, before he even was doing the QS, trying to qualify. Obviously, the Colapintos and Cole Hausman, they grew up on our boards. Sawyer, who just won her first event, I don't think she's ever ridden another board.
Oh my gosh,
her father
so
and I
cool.
were pushing the girls in at 5 years old. And the list kind of goes on. Eli Hanneman's been with us since he was 11. You know, Aaron Brooks since he was 10. It was a real organic thing that's just kind of blossomed into a superpower, and we don't take it lightly.
Sure.
It's not normal.
It isn't.
And it might not ever happen again in my career. It's just something that's now, and it's happening, and we're enjoying it.
Yeah, and you should. But the thing is, because I like the message you have, what you're saying is you've been with these kids, you've been nurturing that talent for all these years.
Yeah, Caroline
it wasn't
and Carissa.
Like you just went, oh, they're ripping, get them on the board. It was
No, it wasn't like that.
I love that.
Yeah, Caroline and Carissa both started, 8-9 years apart, but they were both like 15 when they started riding our boards, and they both qualified and made the World Tour as young teenage phenoms, and they both have their gold medals, and world titles, all that sort of stuff.
I feel like there's just so much like core organic truth, of loving surfing and loving boards and shapes and people that are passionate about it. So there you are trying to, whether they find you or you find them. I don't know how each one of those relationships develop.
It's all little different ways.
Yeah, each one's different. But the fact is, at one point they click in young, and they ride the wave with you, and you ride the wave with them.
And then there's a mutual respect and a mutual appreciation.
And sharing of knowledge. Like they come in going, hey, whatever, like you just keep developing.
Yeah.
And then your boards obviously are hitting the mark, because to be that far ahead, that means you just,
But
really
building boards for world-class surfers is kind of like being a professional baseball hitter. Like if you do it, baseball player, you hit 300, you bat 30% successful, you can have a long, successful career.
Yeah.
But that's 70, that's, that means you're failing 7 out of 10 times. So you have to definitely be thick-skinned and take, you go, in unison, take criticism openly and grow from it. You have to respect the fact that these kids are very good at what they do, and you have to listen to what they have to say, good and bad.
That's really cool to say that. I do the same. Like when I was first starting this show, I'm not a trained talk show host. I don't even mean to do a talk show. I'm a trained actor. I'm not a trained talk show host,
Yeah.
But the thing is early on there'd be feedback, and some people might get all weird about it. Some people would come in on the comments and be like, shut up, man, let the guests talk. And I would just answer back and go, thanks for taking the time to tell me that. Yeah. That's awesome.
Sometimes I feel that way, but even with Joe Rogan, like I'll be driving to Mammoth to go snowboard and you throw on Joe Rogan. It's like, wow, you got one of the most interesting humans on earth, and you just keep talking about so it's like that guy's the kingpin. Yes. So we all have to do that. We all have to like look and grow and try and do our thing better.
For me, it's about being a better listener.
Yeah.
And I've been working on that, and I feel like that comes in the same way that maybe even a Grom comes and says, hey, but like if you're arrogant and you're not open and you're not learning, then you're just going, but I mean, I'm just like, thanks for giving me the time to give me the feedback.
You've always been a good communicator. You were like a voice of the community. When I showed up, it's like Caveman Joe. He's like the voice of the community. Like I remember you organizing the big lowers invasions. And you're like the front and center, and you're the guy with the big chest and the jaw, and like and like you had a wave for like Dino and Archie and all that generation. They all like looked up to you and respected you, and like you were like a Pied Piper per se. You're kind of a face and a voice of this town. at a time when this town really started to flex and figure out what it was. And the remnants of that, the trickle down of that from like, you were obviously a few years older than us, meaning me, Dino, Archie, Christian.
I'm 8 years older than Dino. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm right there.
Yeah.
But like what they did, and you and your crew, like being the Pied Pipers, the voice of that, the communicator, you know, with Jeff New and the films you guys did, and created this San Clemente culture of we're like badasses in this town. We are the surf town.
We are.
You know, forget Huntington Beach, forget Santa Cruz. We're the guys. We're Trestles. And that's what you guys lit up with Christian and Dino and Matt, McNulty's, whoever else.
Lots of them
has
too.
Trickled all the way to Griffin and Crosby and Cole, and it went through obviously Kalohe, who is a huge torchbearer in this town, and still maintains,
Big
but
time.
it just keeps going on, and it's trickled down. It's almost gotten to a point of cartoon status. With like
Totally. Like what's in the water here, you know?
Yeah.
It's like people trip on it kind of, right? Well, I appreciate the respect you're showing. And for me, it was always just about love and brotherhood. That's all it was. So all these people you're talking about, they're just recipients of my love, because my feeling is if they don't learn it from me, who are they going to tell them? Who cares enough? And they know that.
Someone's got to.
And they know that. They know that I fought at times with them to make sure that certain the kids you're talking about when they were on tour.
I remember
and they
having
started
a really good surf session with you.
Oh, you, me, and Barnum.
Right off point.
Oh my God.
Just random, glassy, chest high barrels.
I can tell you the day.
For some reason, it's just us.
How's me? December 22nd, 2002.
Yeah, remember that?
I remember it well.
Like,
I tell the story all the time because check it out.
Watching each other.
Dude, I was running down I went to look, and I look out there. You know how you run down the stairs at Strands? I go.
You walk up to the point, yeah.
But I was like, no one in the fucking water.
Yeah.
And it looks fucking perfect. But it was kind of a gray day.
Yeah, that doesn't happen anymore.
Oh my God. It didn't even happen then, really.
No, not really.
So I'm running up the stairs, psyching to get my board. And you guys are coming down to look at it. You and Barnum are coming down to look at it. And you go, and I go, you're over looking at it. Fuck it. Just get your boards. You don't even need to look at it. You guys are like, what? I go, yeah, just get over it. Get the fuck. So we're all down there, and us three were just, oh my God, what a session.
Yeah, it was like perfect little trash can shaped tubes.
Insane. I would call it 3 to 4 feet.
Yeah.
Right?
It was this big.
No,
it was
bigger
hollow.
than that.
But it was like as hollow as could be.
Perfectly hollow.
It was perfect, like
I want to say that the best waves were started that height.
Yeah.
But then when they pitched, then you just be like, no one in
like
the
a
water.
wave pool.
Yeah.
And we flat sand there that we used to build up. I guess it still does. Just that flat sand.
Oh, it was a dream. Yeah. And what happened a little bit was I think I was just waiting because I was like, you know what? I'm over the little waves today. There's always people here. I'm going to wait for sets. Fuck it. And I feel like some of the times you guys were just kind of grabbing what could
go.
Yeah. And I was sitting up at the top. So you guys a couple times saw me on waves that were more set waves. So I was waiting, going, fuck that.
No, I saw you in perfect barrels.
Yeah. And it was really cool. Yeah. So, and then at the end, we're like, okay, a couple guys started coming and we looked at each other and said, we're over it.
I was addicted to that place for a long time. That was like all winter long I'd surf there.
It's a beautiful.
Big, small, high tide where you just do turns, low tide where you're pulling into closeouts. I was
incredible.
I have pictures of me on the first board I ever shaped there.
Really?
In the winter of 87, 88.
Sick. Oh my God.
And I was super into that wave until, I don't know, maybe almost about 20 years. Yeah, until I wasn't. But yeah, I was always obsessed with that wave. It ended up getting so crowded. I ended up getting older and slower. And just kind of
yeah, that phase up. You know what? This juncture, what I want to do, mister, is I want to ask you about your top 10 favorite surfers of all time. I want you to talk to the doctor.
My top 10 favorite surfers is not necessarily based around surfing ability. It's pretty easy. Oh, Kelly Slater, Tom Curren, and surfing for me has always been more about the culture, like the characters, the culture, the influential, like impactful personalities. It's pretty easy to just watch surfing and go, oh, that guy's better than that guy. So my top 10 favorite surfers, I don't think I've ever made a list. I don't think I've ever really been asked this question.
Thank you very much.
But right off the top of my head, what pops into my mind, Mason Ho is absolutely just everything that surfing should be. I think he's the greatest thing. His personality, his spaciness, his ruthlessness, his work ethic, his talent, his lineage, his abilities, his character. I mean, just everything. Freedom.
10 out of 10.
I think he's a 10 out of 10. It's just like, even as an ethnicity, you know, he's not just a blonde, blue, tan, perfection human. He's just like, yeah.
So awesome. Yeah,
so
that's
awesome.
Yeah.
You know, as far as technical ability, and you know, my two favorite right now, you know, Yago and Griffin, I just think they're just like a goofy foot and regular, and I'm so fortunate that these two just technically beautifully flawless surfers I get to work with right now, and they're both at such a high level.
No argument there.
Yeah,
man.
it's just
oh
like,
my gosh,
you just can't nitpick either one of them. I mean, I go to all these events around the world, and I study it, and I watch the contest, and I go to the contest, and it's the game I'm in deep right now, and it's just, you cannot find a negativity, you know, of their surfing. It's just so high level. So I mean, that sounds kind of starting off the top. That's obviously biased. 3 guys that ride my boards, going, you know, kind of deeper. Of course, Tom Curren, California. You know, I'll give everyone that. It's just wonderful, and it's just everything from like the beautiful Tom Curren in the 80s and what he did. To surfing really changed from like the kind of surfing the guys before him were doing to what he was doing. He opened the door for like a new way of surfing waves. Then his whole weird thing with the skim boards and the stuff. And he's always very polite and almost respectful to me. He treats me like so well, and just so like with me, he's like not that spacey guy. He's just like, hello Matt, how you doing? Good to see you. How's the family? It's just like really he's just, you know, he's just so nice. So like everyone, he's on my list, of course. And Mark Richards, 25 years we've been making his boards for the USA. We've done snowboarding trips together. We've done all kinds of things together. Here, I go there, he comes here. Really fortunate. He's everyone of our generation's hero.
Oh my gosh, the Wounded Gull, the style of
everything,
his deal,
the style, the
so
approach.
Crazy, yeah.
And, you know, to win all those world titles on boards that he not only shaped for himself, he shaped them. He airbrushed them. He glassed them. He sanded them. He put the fins on and laid them up. I think he even made the goddamn fins. Okay, cut them out of fiberglass.
Incredible story. Yeah.
Makes all his own boards. He was making his boards start to finish at one point.
Damn.
And winning world titles on them.
On boards he created start to finish.
Start to finish.
And the paint job.
Wow. And he's the humblest, nicest human you'll ever come across.
Never heard a bad word about him my whole life.
And then Cheyne Horan, who's like almost like not the polar opposite, but he's so different than Mark. And this was summer of '82, and then they saw all these flyers like posted up for punk rock shows and movies like Bill Delaney or something like movies, surf movies. Yeah. And then all the posters went up, US OP Pro, OP Pro, OP Pro, OP Pro. Oh, OP Pro, we gotta go. So we went to the OP Pro, and I was there on the beach with 100,000 people, just another sloppy, chubby, sunburnt 13-year-old boy with a boogie board. I saw Cheyne Horan do that 360 on the shore and win the OP Pro 1982. And I'm like,
yeah, that was phenomenal.
My buddies and I were like, I was lucky. I was only 13. My buddies.
Was he on the keel fin?
We're like, we're done.
Laser zap.
Done.
Wildest.
We're getting surfboards. No more of this boogie board
He sparked
shit.
your interest in surfing.
We're getting surfboard.
Yeah, we're over
the boogie surfing.
board.
It's over. I'm learning how to surf. I ended up getting a used Wave Tools. My first board was Lance Collins Wave Tools.
Okay.
Used. I bought it for $70. We're learning how to surf. Now it's because of Cheyne Horan. He was everything.
He really was.
Yeah.
I mean, we've said it a million times. I don't know what you think about this, but as much as we love what he was doing, it was so just bizarre. Those boards were like spaceships, the keel fin, the whole thing. We would always say, I mean, if he would have jumped on a thruster, he might have won a couple titles. You know? I'm just saying. But whatever. I love what he did. He was such an individual.
For sure.
There's always ways you could look back and say,
he could have ridden easier. There were definitely easier boards to ride. He could have made an easier path for himself. He was runner-up every one of those years that Mark won, or at least 3 of them.
Yeah.
So recently, Cheyne and I started working together. We give him a place at Basham's, Brad, that we took over a few years ago. Give him a place to come and build his own custom orders. He comes and builds boards, crazy, wild Cheyne Horan boards. And then we worked together and we did a collab model. We call it the Rad Zapper. It's a combination of the Laser Zap and my Rad Ripper with his art. And we built it together and we're selling them. And he's so fun and he's so beautiful.
He really is.
He's just great. And I think he's the free spirit. He's the rebel. Different. He's like, everyone was this, he goes that way. And that's what's beautiful about surfing is you have characters like that. So MR, Shane, Curren, Mason, Yago, Griff. I mean,
I think you got another 4 in the top 10, my man.
Maybe. I don't even know. I've never really tried to do this before.
It's a really cool thing. I think the whole world would like to hear who your top 10 are,
I just
being who you are and what you've done. You know, it's a pretty cool thing.
As a surfboard designer, it's a lot. Yeah, I give a lot of credit towards really good technical surfing. Like really, really good, no catching rail, sustained speed through turns, mechanically sound, structured, really good surfing. That's when a board's working well. Even going back to Chris Ward, 15-year-old Chris Ward, I was first learning how to make boards for good surfers. And if we give him a couple boards, and I was 25, 24, give him a couple boards, and if you see him just kind of start pumping down the line and trying airs on every wave, he wasn't able to express it, but that's where you go, okay, he doesn't really like that board. He's just forcing it and trying airs. You make him a board that really works good, all of a sudden he'd start surfing like Curren.
Yeah,
rail
really
to rail,
smooth.
Like, this one's pretty good. Yeah. And it was like a light went on. Like, you could go and do the Herbie Fletcher thing and like launch and do big technical skate influenced airs. Although when Christian won that event, he did it doing traditional surfing.
He really did.
The big lowers event.
Yeah.
But so Chris Ward is one of my all time favorite surfers for what he did for me, for what we did together, for the crazy run we had, and for his ability to be just a technically flawless surfer when he wants to.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's awesome to hear you talk about Chris
him.
too.
Yeah.
Especially with you guys' history and
so surfers like that, surfers that can click into that range, that realm, makes them my favorite. Carissa Moore, I think is really, no disrespect to Stephanie Gilmore, but I think Carissa Moore is the GOAT, and I'm biased, of course, but she won the world tour, would be 7 years, and lost 2 of them in the finals. So
the way they were doing it here,
the way we do finals.
Yeah.
So
she really did win.
Literally won the world tour 7 times.
Yeah.
And she's got a gold medal. And I just think that she's a more well-rounded. I mean, her tube riding, her bigger waves, her backhand,
all of the above,
her little airs, her
Stephanie's
tube
got
riding.
Great flow,
Stephanie's incredible. She's a
Nothing
great
against
character.
her. Super awesome.
But I think for me, Carissa Moore,
got the
it's
power.
biased, but I think she's what she did with her career. I think she's the best female surfer of all time,
and still doing.
Maybe not today, even though she just won
2 in a row,
events.
And she just became
back
a
to
mother.
back. I was there for both of them, New Zealand and El Salvador.
Yeah, I saw you there.
Got to be right there.
Emotional moment. I felt emotional watching that.
So she's breastfeeding.
It's just
literally like hand the baby off, pull the wetsuit up, paddle out, and drop 9s.
Amazing.
Like,
yeah.
Wow.
Showing the world what's possible.
Wow.
So is there a couple more? I think we got 8. If you could throw a couple more at me.
My favorite thing ever is Miki Dora. Like
now
Miki
you're talking
Dora.
to the doctor.
Talk to the doctor.
Oh
Miki
my
Dora,
gosh,
man. Let's just he's basically like on the road with Jack Kerouac, but a surfer.
100%. I'm chicken skin 100% head to toe right now.
Just
100%. So glad you mentioned.
I've been fortunate to spend some time with him. I was able to spend time with him.
Yeah, you said you had a couple Miki Dora stories.
I got Miki Dora stories. Yeah, South Africa, 98. Went to South Africa. Went to J-Bay. Kenny Caldwell from San Clemente went with me. He was just out of high school.
Just saw him the other
Justin
day.
Madison, he was kind of a proper hot shot at the time.
Yeah.
Riding our boards. He's on the Rip Curl program.
Yeah.
And he was like one of the guys in our movies.
Totally.
And all that. Justin
Ripping.
He's doing stuff at lowers. It's still valid.
Yeah, I agree.
So we went, me, Justin, Kenny. We went to Durban. I think it was for like the Gunston And then we drove with Graham Smith, Jordy's dad. We got in his van and we drove from Durban to J-Bay and surfed J-Bay for a week. And Derek Hind was there with his Derek Hind house with the slide and all that.
Talk about another eccentric human.
Very eccentric human. So we went one night, we were surfing with all them. So Derek's like, "Oh, Matt, yeah, you're doing good things. You're coming on. You're good job. I followed that. I watched you guys become, get in the game,
Doing
right?"
the voice too.
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah.
And he's like, I go, "Yeah, Justin Madison's with me." He's like, "Come over, just you and Justin, not your other buddies." So we walk over and we go. He said, "We'll go get dinner." He's like, "I have another." So we get in the house and like, "Oh, there's a slide. Ooh, Tom Curren's boards, the whole thing." And he's like, "Yeah, we're gonna go to get dinner. We'll go get Moroccan. We're gonna go up the road and get Moroccan." And no, I'm sorry, not Moroccan, Mongolian.
Okay.
'Cause we're gonna go to a Mongolian barbecue outside of town, but I'm waiting for my friend to show up. Who's your friend? It's like, "Oh, he'll be here." So, door opens.
Oh my God.
The old man walks in. Miki Dora walks in with Scooter Boy with the dog. Walks in. And Eric's like, "Mickey." He's like, looks at me and all like
suspicious. Yeah.
It's like, "Okay, we go."
Did you know at the moment he walked in who it was?
Oh yeah, I did. Yeah, I have Surfer's Journal. Like, I don't know. Yeah, I knew exactly who he was.
Damn.
I don't even know how, but
He has an aura.
I knew.
Miki Dora had an aura.
I had watched enough. I soaked in enough surf history at that time, 98.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I knew it was. I mean, Surfers, the movie, those interviews, we're talking about all the shit going around and going over your head and it just goes away through the tube and all that. But I had
such a character.
So I was perfectly aware. Justin Madison on the end had no idea.
No idea.
He
Had he even ever heard of him?
I don't know.
You know
I
what
can't
mean?
speak for
Trippy,
that.
right?
But he didn't know who it was.
Yeah,
he didn't understand
see him
it.
and know that was
He
Miki
didn't understand
Dora.
why I was like, "Oh, Miki Dora."
Oh my God.
Okay, let's get in the car. Let's go. And it was some yellow, remember that brand Opel?
Yeah.
Like a weird little
Yeah.
brand. I don't even know where
Yeah.
it's from. Where's Opel from? Opel Automobiles?
Is it like European somewhere?
Probably some kind of European thing that maybe got shipped into South Africa. We climb into some little yellow Opel car, and we drove Germany. Okay, we drove to Cape St. Francis, just which was like a 45-minute or an hour drive or something from J-Bay
Oh my
to
gosh.
Bruce's to
Come
go
on.
eat at some
The
Mongolian.
classic wave that was in Endless Summer.
Yeah,
Right?
of
Oh my
course.
God. Bruce's Beauty's in Endless Summer. Right?
Mongolian barbecue.
And of all people, you're with Derek Hind and Miki Dora and now Justin Madison.
and
right?
Justin Madison,
What a trip.
and
It's like a scene in a movie for me.
it was like a scene in a movie.
It's a scene in a movie.
And they did the book, and I told the guys in the book, I gave them that story. It was called All for a Few Waves or something, but I think it got bounced back because the whole book on Mickey was just short stories from other people that experienced things around them. So we get in the car, and we're driving, and he's like, "My dog has to pee." And pull over, my dog has to pee. He's got Scooter Boy, the dog. And it's pitch black. We're in the middle of nowhere, like halfway between two towns. And he lets the dog out, and the dog just runs off into the darkness, like the desert. It's like desert, Dog just runs off, and the old man's like, "What? Where's my dog, Scooter Boy? We gotta find him." The dog just runs off into the darkness. So Mickey starts walking, and he tells Derek, "Turn the lights on, drive around, back up. We gotta find the dog." Drive around for 5-10 minutes, find the dog. Mickey runs, grabs him, pulls the dog back in the car, and off we go. That's all I remember about the drive. Chasing around Miki Dora's dog.
In the middle of the desert, middle of the night,
Get
black
to the
night,
Mongolian barbecue,
chasing Scooter around.
chasing Scooter Boy around.
Oh my gosh.
Mongolian barbecue, I just remember it was these round polished stone for a table. And the Mongolian guy, the Chinese, they're almost like Alaskan Chinese looking sort of, right?
I love it when you do sounds and stuff.
Yeah. It's a round stone, and they just throw the meat on the hot stone, and you just kind of grab the meat and grab the vegetables and and you eat it off the hot stone. Mongolian barbecue, just a big hot rock in the middle of your table.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Sounds good. I'm
It was
hungry.
really cool. Derek's like, "You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it."
Did you love it?
I loved it.
Yeah.
and then so Derek's like, "So Matt, so exciting, all the things in surfboards right now, you're using these newfangled shaping machines." I'm like, yeah, I got to use the Barland one in France, and I'm really excited. I'm going to go to Brazil pretty soon, and I'm going to look at maybe getting one for myself from this guy in Brazil who's developed them. And I've been hand shaping 12 years, and I was ready to move on to the next step. young and motivated. Sure. And Derek's like, oh, I know about this one, that one. What do you think? KKL, you used yeah, I used the KKL one a bit. And Mickey's like, And he's like,
such a purist, probably, right?
Like tortured. Like, hey, kind of like what was the show? Who was the Columbo? Kind of like Columbo.
Columbo.
Like,
oh my God. Peter Falk.
Peter Falk. Yeah, he's like, not to make small of, the new advances in surfboards and computers and fancy and tri-fins, and all that. Because, Matt, answer me this. I'm like, he's like, do you really think that anything that's happened with surfboards in the last 50 years, 60 years has improved the experience of surfing, has really made it for the better? Does it really matter? Does it make surfing better? And I said, well. And Derek's like Ted Knight in Caddyshack. He's like, well, we're waiting. Answer the man.
Derek's
like, we're waiting.
Oh, boy.
And I'm like, well, okay, we're surfing super tubes today, right, Mickey? Yeah. It was like 6-8 foot. It was like 10-foot faces, pumping. He's like, yeah. I go, I saw you like getting great waves. You were ripping. Wow. He's probably mid-60s by then. I don't know about ripping. Yeah. I go, well, you were doing it. You were out there flying down set waves. Miki Dora. So yeah, I go, well, could you have done that on 100-pound slab of koa wood with no fin? And Derek starts laughing like you.
I would have looked at him and said, when Simon Anderson made the thruster, it changed my life.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that.
You should.
I was on a Mark Richards twin fin in Hawaii, and I was actually on a single fin, then a twin fin, and then I was on the thruster. The first day I rode it, I was like, life-changing event.
Life-changing.
First day. First wave, I went, fuck. This is what I need, the way I surf. I like to put, I could finally get the speed that I wanted, but, because I just felt it the first wave, and I fucking had the most amazing session. On my first day, I borrowed this thruster from this girl, this ET board. This girl, Mabel, and Maui had this. Me and Robert Brady were out at the pavilions by ourselves on this beautiful, 4 to 5 foot back Hawaiian day glassy. Just me and him. Oh, life-changing. So I would look at Mickey and say, yeah, man, for sure.
And that's a perfect answer.
Oh my
and that's
gosh.
The beauty of that question. Is because so many things have happened. Because MR can say, yeah, I was stuck on single fins and I looked like every other surfer.
Yes.
And then I jumped on a twin fin and all of a sudden I'm the best surfer in the world.
By a lot.
Yeah.
The speed, the transitions, the way he rode one like no one else ever rode a twin fin like that guy.
No.
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, and it wasn't like those guys in San
either.
Diego riding keels or nothing.
No.
It was a whole other level.
Vulcan was so dynamic on that thing, I love that era when all those guys were on tour.
The first waves I ever
boards.
stood up on were on a tri-fin, so I didn't get to experience that.
Oh, you didn't? Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, my first board was late summer '82. It was a tri-fin Lance Collins.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, that's kind of cool in that way, yeah. Yeah, I was stuck, older, so I was pretty stuck.
You got to feel that. I'm jealous.
Fuck.
I'm jealous I didn't get to.
My first board was a 10-foot Surfboards Hawaii, 5 redwood stringers. I could barely carry it to the beach.
Yeah.
It was so heavy. And turning it was like a groin pull. It was gnarly. But you learn flow and you learn weight displacement. And then, my boards as I kept getting, and then my next board was a 7-foot. This guy in town, John Bolt, was famous for beating up Tommy Castleton in the day. Anyway, then he shaped these boards, hydro sticks.
Yeah.
He had a shop called Hydro Sticks, and I got a 7-foot diamond tail, and I still love diamond tails.
Yeah.
And it was a life changer. I went from a 10-foot to a 7-foot, big huge
difference.
shift, huge. It was hard to, but then, just little by little, we evolved with the times, and that's really cool. And so that's a really awesome Miki Dora story. And I mean,
I stumped him twice in that conversation. I got him again. So we can wrap up. I don't even need to pick a 10th surfer because he's the guy, right?
He's the guy.
So
we end on Miki Dora because he's the guy. He gets to be 2 people.
Huh?
He gets to be
He's 2 people because I got 2 stories from the same night.
Sick.
So Derek loved the fact that, I basically used Miki and said, you couldn't have done that on a board made 50 years ago. Too heavy, too straight, to ride super tubes.
And he's like,
and that's 65 years old or whatever. So then I don't know what Derek and I were talking about. Miki was getting grouchy because Derek and I were doing all the talking, and Justin isn't the most stimulating guy, for conversation.
He's quiet.
He's just like, and something happened where Miki said, on the same subject, has anything really happened in modern times that's been better for humanity? He was on this trip, right?
Yeah.
It was like the aquatic ape thing. You know about his aquatic ape thing, like cut down a tree and have a surf con.
Yeah. It was cool.
He was on that trip.
Cool, yeah. It was very environmentally cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Him and Derek were thinking about that. So he goes, what about modern? This is a bigger picture than surfers. He actually said to me, I'm a young man. In 98, I was, 28, 29 years old. He's like, was there anything in the world in general, any technology, anything in the modern, what do they call it, the industrial era, the industrial revolution, that has bettered humanity without detriment?
Downside, yeah.
Anything.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is fucking Miki Dora is asking me? I have to answer. And Derek's same thing. Well, what's your answer, Matt? Like, come on.
I got the professor. I'm still the student here. What's up?
I'm just like, why? What did I do to this guy? This guy's my idol, my hero. I think why is he fucking with me,
But is he fucking with you, or is he just being mentorish in a way?
Maybe. He's putting me under pressure, maybe getting me ready for life.
It's grasshopper shit.
Yeah. Maybe waiting for me to get up and go to the bathroom
and
lift my wallet.
That's so funny. What'd you tell him?
I go, what about running water?
Oh, boy.
I said running water. I don't know.
What did he say to that?
He's just, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he didn't argue.
There's nothing to argue that.
Maybe there is. I mean,
what's the downside of running water?
You can get pretty sick from running water in Mexico and Bali. You don't be drinking that stuff.
Oh boy, we've talked a lot. I think there's been a continued theme in our talk today about we don't answer anyone. We have freedom. We've talked a lot about people that have been really Chris Ward, just everyone, a lot of people we've talked about. There's an essence of freedom about it.
They walk the edges.
And isn't that what surfing, at least for me, I think that's what surfing's all about.
Turn your back. What is surfing? 90% of the time when you're surfing, you're just basically staring at the horizon with your back to society. That's what we do.
That's so awesome.
We spend hours at a time with our back, just turning our back on the world, staring at an empty horizon.
Oh my gosh, that's a very poignant thing to say. I've never heard that, and I like it. I think it's a great way to kind of put a wrap on what we're doing. I mean, really cool. So stoked to have you in here, mister.
Happy to be here.
Awesome, brother. Super
Thank
cool,
you.
man.
Cut.